In my opinion, this is one of the hardest eating disorders to spot because so many of the symptoms associated with orthorexia are commonly accepted as healthy behaviors. And so a lot of people that have orthorexia just slip right under the radar, despite it being a very serious eating disorder. In this video, I'm going to be talking about what orthorexia is, common signs and symptoms of it, and things you should be looking out for, both for people in your life and for you if you're wondering if someone or yourself has orthorexia. And this topic is particularly relevant generally in our life, in diet culture and wellness culture, but also in particular to me because I had orthorexia in the past. And so this is something that I'm very passionate about, and I'm excited to talk to you about it. And if you're on your own healing journey when it comes to food and body image, be sure to check out the free resource below that I made for you. It is a journaling and activity calendar. Every single month, it walks you through things you can ask yourself, things you can try, all related to healing your relationship with food in your body. We need a lot of things when it comes to healing our relationship with food in our body, and this is meant to be a supplement to all the work you may be doing. My name is Catherine Metzelaar. I'm a registered dietitian, certified intuitive eating counselor, and eating disorder specialist, and I help you to create peace with food and your body so that all of it takes up less headspace and you can live your life with more freedom, abundance, and joy. You definitely want to take a listen to this. Orthorexia is an eating disorder, and it is characterized as an obsession with healthy eating, an obsession with clean eating, a focus and obsession on looking at every single ingredient that food has. And really, generally, I like to think about it as the fear of harm being done to the body. So individuals with orthorexia exhibit certain signs and symptoms related to that fear of harm being caused and related to the obsession with eating healthy and clean food. Cutting out an increasing number of foods and food groups, think dairy and gluten and sugar, and inability to eat certain kinds of foods that aren't pure or clean, an increase in the concern about the health of foods on a food label, an unusual interest in the health of foods about other people, spending hours a day thinking about food, planning for food, imagining what one is going to eat at an upcoming event, showing high levels of distress when eating foods that aren't clean or pure or healthy or organic, and often a consistent and constant reading of blogs, watching social media, consuming content all related to how to be healthier and to eat or exclude certain kinds of food. The interesting thing about orthorexia is that the primary driver isn't always and usually isn't concerns about one's body shape and size. The primary driver is the food itself, a fear around food, a fear around not eating organic or healthy food or clean food or pure food. And so it's a unique eating disorder in that way. And this adds to the reason why it's difficult to spot, that a lot of people have orthorexia, but we don't see any particular signs of distress around someone's body image kind of leading and guiding their decisions around food. Now, I will say, because of the culture that we exist in, and because of weight stigma and because of anti-fatness, it is difficult to exist in this culture without having challenges that you might face around your body and your body image. It's just that it's not the primary driver when we're talking about the presentation of orthorexia as an eating disorder. For me personally, when I had orthorexia, it very much went under the radar. In fact, so many people looked to me for advice and saw me as a really healthy person. And it was part of, honestly, what drove me to end up going to graduate school many years ago, because I just believed that I was very healthy, but I was very much stuck in my own eating disorder, but I didn't know it at the time. And that's what's so tricky about, in this case, orthorexia, that so many of the behaviors are not only culturally encouraged, they are taught, they are seen everywhere, this idea that you should be eating healthy foods, which, by the way, there's no definition of what healthy means. But nonetheless, people who suffer with orthorexia don't actually know that they have it because it is so socially respected, the behaviors associated with orthorexia. It's important to know that orthorexia has some very serious mental and physical health consequences. For example, anxiety is a very common experience of eating out or eating at home in particular. If someone is eating foods that aren't deemed healthy, pure, clean, and therefore there can be avoidance of many social situations related to food, a lot of fear and anxiety when you're eating the food. Medical consequences can include malnutrition, hypothalamic amenorrhea, which is the absence of your menstrual cycle because you're not getting enough food and enough variety of foods. Bone density loss, because again, you're not getting enough food to be able to support your body and its needs. Digestive problems, because there's usually a lot of fiber or voluminous foods that are being consumed, and so things like diarrhea and or constipation can happen. Social isolation, because of the anxiety and fear around eating only certain kinds of foods. Because it's such a socially acceptable eating disorder, it's hard for other people to spot when somebody has orthorexia, and it's also hard for ourselves to spot orthorexia. Just like it was difficult for me. I had no idea I had an eating disorder in the past, and I only learned over time and throughout the years that in fact I was very much stuck in orthorexia. So some of the things to look out for, either for people in your life or for you yourself, is a obsessive focus on fear around of checking ingredient labels. This is something really that I want you to look out for. And this one is really difficult because so many sources tell you that you should be looking at ingredient labels to dissect every single ingredient that's on there. Another thing to look out for is fear and anxiety around eating foods that are outside of your comfort zone or things that feel safe and okay for you. This could be at friends' houses, this could be going to your parents' house, this could be eating out at a restaurant, this could be any kind of situation in which you don't have as much control over the food and you're noticing anxiety. Add to this if you're avoiding social situations in which there's food there because there's fear that you might eat something that could harm you. This is something that you want to be looking out for. And lastly, you want to look out for this taking up a lot of headspace. A lot of times with orthorexia, it becomes this almost compulsion and obsession where you're constantly thinking about foods, planning for food, looking at food ingredient lists, reading blogs about food, reading things that tell you that you should be afraid of food. And so if it's taking up a lot of headspace, my motto is you deserve support. No matter if you've received a diagnosis or not, it's important that you take a look at what could be going on because orthorexia causes us to suffer in so many ways. On the outside, people might see this really healthy person, but on the inside, in the day-to-day, the reality of the experience is that you're wrecked with anxiety. And I most certainly was constantly thinking about what foods I should and shouldn't be eating and carrying around this fear that at any moment something bad would happen. It's this feeling like you're constantly being exposed to all these really harmful things and it takes life from you. It really does. It steals life and it becomes almost like a complete part of your own identity, which is another part of the difficulty of healing from orthorexia. My belief as a registered dietitian who specializes in eating disorders and helping people to create peace with food and their body, and also as someone who has recovered from orthorexia, I believe that if there's chaos in your brain about food, if it's taking up a lot of headspace, then you deserve support. You don't need to wait for a diagnosis. There are tons of people that have disordered eating behaviors that might not classify and tick the boxes of having an eating disorder, but that doesn't mean that you don't deserve support. There is a way to live your life with more freedom and abundance and joy and presence. And it can take some time to heal from eating disorders, especially with orthorexia, because as we've talked about, it's such a socially acceptable and praised eating disorder in the way that certain healthy behaviors are. And so I want you to know that you deserve support. If you're watching this and you're wondering if you have orthorexia or if you're really struggling, then you should seek out some sort of additional support. In summary, we have talked about what orthorexia is, the signs and symptoms of orthorexia, some of the physical and mental health consequences of orthorexia, and generally why I believe that this eating disorder just slips under the radar, but that it shouldn't, and some things that you can do and consider if you suspect that you have orthorexia. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you got anything out of it, I always appreciate a like below. If you want additional support, don't forget to check out the resource as well. And if you've got questions about orthorexia, be sure to also leave them so that we can keep talking together about this very common eating disorder that, in my opinion, doesn't get enough attention. And I will see you back here soon.